I once had it all: a beautiful home, a loving husband, and a baby growing inside me. Then I found Dominic and Lilith in his study, her tears flowing as she showed him pictures of me with another man. Pictures she created, letters she forged, lies she told. My childhood friend had been planning this for months, poisoning his mind against me while I cared for my dying mother. He believed her lies and threw me away without hearing my side. My own husband called me unfaithful in front of everyone we knew. I lost my marriage, my baby, and finally my life in that cold boarding house. But fate gave me another chance. Reborn 9 months before my downfall, I saw clearly this time. Now I orchestrate their downfall from afar. They have no idea what's coming. I pour the Cabernet with a steady hand, filling the crystal glass exactly 2/3 full, just as Dominic prefers. The dining room gleams under the chandelier light, every detail perfect. The white roses in the center, the silverware aligned precisely with the edge of the table, the delicate china plates selected specifically for tonight's dinner party. "Darling, you've outdone yourself again," Dominic says, appearing behind me and wrapping his arms around my waist. His cologne envelops me, expensive and familiar. His business associates will arrive in 30 minutes. These dinners matter to Dominic, and what matters to him matters to me. 3 years of marriage have taught me the intricacies of his world. The powerful Richaud family name, the expectations that come with it, the right things to say to the right people. I turn in his arms and straighten his tie. "Everything is perfect," I say, and he kisses me before disappearing into his study for one last call. The doorbell rings exactly at 7. I smooth my dress and open the door to find Lilith, my childhood friend, standing there with a bottle of wine. "I brought your favorite," she says, her smile dazzling. Her dark hair cascades over one shoulder, her dress modest but fashionable. "You didn't have to," I reply, accepting the bottle. "But thank you." Lilith has been our estate manager for just over a year now. When she arrived in town after her divorce, unemployed and struggling, I convinced Dominic to create a position for her. He'd been reluctant at first. The Richauds rarely mix personal and professional, but I'd insisted. We needed help managing the property, and Lilith needed a fresh start. She follows me to the kitchen, her eyes taking in every detail of our home. Something in her gaze makes me pause. A hunger, perhaps? But when I turn, she's already smiling warmly and asking how she can help. "Everything's under control," I assure her. "But you're welcome to stay for dinner. The Martins would love to see you again." "I wouldn't want to impose," she says, but I can tell she wants to stay. "Nonsense. Your family." The evening proceeds flawlessly. Dominic shines as host, charming everyone with anecdotes and business insights. I notice Lilith watching him, intently throughout dinner, laughing at his jokes a beat longer than necessary. When I catch her gaze, she quickly looks away. It's past midnight when the last guest leaves. Dominic loosens his tie, beaming at me. "Another success, my love." His kiss tastes of wine and satisfaction. Lilith helps me clear the table, insisting on staying despite my protests that she should go home and rest. "I don't mind," she says. "Besides, what else would I do in that empty apartment?" I feel a twinge of sympathy. Lilith has been alone since her husband left her for his secretary, a betrayal I helped her through with countless late-night calls and emergency visits. "You'll find someone," I tell her. "Someone who appreciates you." Her smile doesn't quite reach her eyes. "Not everyone gets lucky like you, Arya." 3 days later, I'm in the bathroom staring at a positive pregnancy test. My hands tremble. After 3 years of trying, of temperature tracking and doctor appointments and disappointments, there it is, the faint second line. I press a hand to my stomach, hardly daring to believe it. I want to tell Dominic right away, but he's in meetings all day. I decide to plan a special dinner, a private celebration before sharing the news with anyone else. My phone rings. It's my sister. "Mom's taken a turn for the worse," she says, her voice breaking. "The doctors don't think she has long." My heart drops. My mother has been battling cancer for months, but the last report had been cautiously optimistic. "I'll be there. Tonight, I promise." I pack quickly, torn between my need to be with my mother and my desire to tell Dominic our news in person. In the end, I decide to wait. This moment deserves more than a rushed conversation before I leave. I find Lilith in the garden, supervising the landscapers. I need to go to my mother's, I explain. She's not doing well. Can you handle things here for a couple of weeks? Concern fills her face. Of course. Don't worry about anything. I'll take care of everything. Thank you, I say, genuinely grateful. And if you could check in on Dominic? He forgets to eat when he's working. I'll make sure he's taken care of, she promises, squeezing my hand. 2 weeks stretch into a blur of hospital visits, hushed conversations with doctors, and nights spent sleeping in an uncomfortable chair beside my mother's bed. She rallies briefly, giving us hope, then declines again. Dominic calls daily, his voice sympathetic but distant. Something in his tone bothers me, but I attribute it to stress and the phone connection. 13 days after I left, my mother passes peacefully in her sleep. I hold her hand until it grows cold, say my goodbyes, and help my sister with the immediate arrangements. Then, exhausted and grief-stricken, I decide to go home a day early. Dominic doesn't know I'm coming. I want to surprise him, to seek comfort in his arms, to finally share our joyful news amid the sorrow. The taxi drops me at our estate just after sunset. The house looks different somehow, though nothing has visibly changed. I use my key to enter quietly, planning to find Dominic in his study where he usually works late. The house is silent except for voices coming from that very room. Dominic's voice, raised in anger, and Lilith's, tearful but insistent. I move toward the study door, which stands slightly ajar. Through the crack, I can see them. Dominic paces, running his hands through his hair. Lilith sits in the leather chair opposite his desk, composed despite her tears. "How can you be certain?" he demands. "I didn't want to believe it either," Lilith says. "She's my friend, but the evidence is undeniable." She reaches into her bag and produces an envelope. From it, she withdraws photographs, me, apparently entering a hotel with a man. The images are grainy but convincing. The man is Victor Keller, one of Dominic's business associates, a man I've spoken to perhaps 3 times at functions. "There's more," Lilith continues, her voice thick with regret. She hands Dominic hotel receipts, then what appear to be letters in my handwriting. My blood runs cold. None of this is real. None of this happened. But Dominic is reading the letters, his face hardening with each line. "She's been seeing him for months," Lilith says, "since before you sent him to oversee the Milan project. I found these when I was organizing her desk, as she asked me to. I couldn't keep this from you." My hand flies to my mouth to stifle a gasp. The betrayal is so complete, so calculated, that for a moment I can't move. "All this time," Dominic says, his voice hollow. "While I've been working to build our future, she's been lying to me. I should burst in, deny everything, demand to know how Lilith created these forgeries. But shock paralyzes me. This can't be happening, not when everything was finally falling into place, not when our baby is growing inside me. I'm so sorry." "Dominic," Lilith says, rising to place a comforting hand on his arm. "You deserve better." The tenderness in her gesture unlocks my paralysis. I push open the door, my voice shaking. "That's not true. None of it is true." They both turn, startled. Dominic's face transforms from shock to cold fury. Lilith steps back, her expression a perfect mask of sympathetic distress. "Arya," she says, "you're home early." "Arya," Dominic says, his voice ice cold, "what a convenient time for you to return." I step fully into the study, still wearing my travel clothes, exhaustion forgotten in the face of this betrayal. "Dominic, whatever she's shown you is fabricated. I've never been unfaithful." Lilith has the audacity to look hurt. "Arya, please, don't make this worse." "Make what worse?" I move toward the desk, reaching for the so-called evidence. "Let me see what lies you've created." Dominic snatches the papers away, his expression hardening. "I've seen enough. Hotel receipts with your signature. Photos of you entering Victor's hotel. Letters in your handwriting. Forgeries, I insist. Dominic, I just spent 2 weeks watching my mother die. I came home early to tell you. I stopped myself. Not like this. I won't tell him about our baby in the middle of this nightmare. Tell me what? More lies? His voice rises. Was your mother even sick, or was that just an excuse to see him? The sly, cruelty of his words stuns me. How dare you? My mother just died. I was with her when she took her last breath yesterday. For a moment, doubt flickers across his face, but Lilith steps in. Arya, I understand you're upset. But I found these in your desk while organizing your papers just as you asked me to. I never asked you to touch my desk, I say, the pieces falling into place. You've been planning this for months. Lilith looks to Dominic, eyes wide with practiced innocence. See? She's desperate, turning on me now. I turn to my husband, pleading. Dominic, we've been together for 5 years. You know me. Why would I risk everything we have for an affair with Victor? It makes no sense. The heart doesn't always make sense, he says, and I realize with horror that nothing I say will matter. He wants to believe her. Call Victor, I challenge. Ask him yourself. I already did, Dominic says flatly. He denied it, of course, but he's leaving the country tomorrow on extended assignment. His choice, apparently. Rather convenient timing. Lilith must have thought of everything. She's been more thorough in her destruction than I could have imagined. Dominic, please, I say, my voice breaking. I love you, only you, always you. He turns away from me, shoulders rigid. I think you should leave, Arya. Stay at a hotel tonight. I can't look at you right now. This is my home too, I whisper. Not anymore. 3 days pass in a haze of disbelief. I stay at a hotel near the estate, calling Dominic repeatedly. He doesn't answer. I send emails explaining that the evidence must be fabricated, begging him to reconsider, to investigate, to simply talk to me. No response. On the 4th day, I receive formal divorce papers from his family's attorney. The Richots want this handled quickly and quietly. The terms are harsh. I am to receive nothing, not even my personal belongings from the estate. The papers cite infidelity as the cause, naming Victor specifically. I call Dominic's parents, hoping they might intercede. His mother answers, her voice colder than I've ever heard it. Arya, the family has decided this is for the best. Dominic is devastated by your betrayal. Please don't make this more difficult than it needs to be. Mrs. Richots, I never betrayed him. Lilith fabricated everything. Lilith has been nothing but supportive during this difficult time. She at least had the decency to bring this to our attention rather than letting Dominic continue to be deceived. My stomach turns. She's manipulating all of you. The evidence speaks for itself. Goodbye, Arya. The line goes dead. A week later, I wake to intense cramping and blood. The emergency room doctor confirms what I already know in my heart. I'm losing the baby. The stress, he says sympathetically, can trigger miscarriages in early pregnancy. He asks if there's someone he can call for me. There's no one left. I don't tell Dominic about the baby we lost. What would be the point? He's already decided who I am, who to believe. 2 weeks after being thrown out of my home, I'm required to attend the Richots Foundation's annual charity gala, not as a guest, but to sign the final divorce papers in the presence of the family attorney. It's a calculated humiliation, forcing me to face society at the very moment my marriage officially ends. I dress carefully in a simple black dress, the only formal wear I still possess. When I arrive, the ballroom falls into an uncomfortable hush. Whispers follow me as I cross the floor toward the secluded corner where the attorney waits. Halfway there, Dominic steps into my path, Lilith at his side. She wears an emerald dress that I recognize from my own closet, a gift from Dominic for our last anniversary. You have some nerve showing your face here, he says, loud enough for nearby guests to hear. I was required to come, I reply quietly, to sign the papers. Well, don't let us keep you from your task. I'm sure you're eager to be free to pursue other interests. His meaning is clear, the accusation public. Something in me breaks. After weeks of pleading and explaining, of being reasonable in the face of unreason, I finally snap. "You want to do this here?" I ask, my voice rising despite myself. "Fine. Let's tell everyone how you believed the lies of a woman who's coveted your wealth since the day I introduced you. Let's tell them how you threw away 5 years of marriage without even giving me the benefit of the doubt." The room has gone completely silent. Dominic's face darkens with anger and embarrassment. "You're causing a scene?" he hisses. "No, you caused the scene when you publicly branded me an adulteress without proof. When you let your family strip me of everything, even my clothes. When you made me endure this charade tonight." Lilith steps forward, placing a proprietary hand on Dominic's arm. "Arya, you're only embarrassing yourself. Everyone knows what you did." I look around at the faces watching us. People who once welcomed me, who ate at my table, who called me friend. Now they stare with a mixture of pity and disdain. "They know what you told them," I say to Lilith. "But someday the truth will come out. And when it does, I hope you both get exactly what you deserve." I walk past them to sign this papers. My hand doesn't shake as I write my name for the last time as Arya Richaud. I leave without looking back, the whispers rising like a tide behind me. 3 weeks later, alone in my dreary boarding house room, I see the announcement in the society. Pages. Dominic Richaud has married his estate manager, Lilith Varden, in an intimate ceremony at the family's country estate. The bride wore Valentino. The couple honeymooned in the Maldives. My landlady finds me 2 days later, curled on my bed, unresponsive. The doctor at the county hospital diagnoses extreme dehydration, malnutrition, and heart failure, brought on by stress. There's nothing to be done, he tells the disinterested social worker assigned to my case. I die with no one holding my hand, no one to mark my passing, no one to mourn me. My last thought as darkness closes in is not of revenge or justice, but simply of the child who never had a chance to live. And then, impossibly, light. I open my eyes to sunlight streaming through familiar curtains. I'm in my bed, our bed, in the estate. Dominic sleeps peacefully beside me, his arm thrown across my waist. The date on the clock reads 9 months before my downfall. I gasp, bolting upright in bed. My heart pounds as I frantically look around the familiar bedroom. Our bedroom. Sunlight streams through the windows, casting golden rectangles across the plush carpet. The clock on the nightstand shows 6:47 a.m. Beside me, Dominic stirs, his face peaceful in sleep, unmarked by the contempt I last saw there. "What is happening?" I whisper, touching my own face, my hair, my body. Everything feels real. I slide out of bed carefully and hurry to the bathroom, turning on the light to examine myself in the mirror. I look younger. The stress lines that had formed around my eyes during those horrible weeks are gone. My wedding ring sits on my finger, its diamond catching the light. The calendar on my phone confirms what seems impossible. I've traveled 9 months back in time. 9 months before Lilith would show Dominic those forged letters. 9 months before he would throw me away like garbage. 9 months before I would die alone and broken. I lean against the counter, trembling. Is this a dream? A hallucination my dying brain conjured as a final comfort? Or has the universe granted me a second chance? When I return to the bedroom, Dominic is awake, checking his own phone. "Morning, beautiful," he says, his voice warm with affection. He holds out his arm, inviting me back to bed. I hesitate. Memories of his cruelty still fresh in my mind. But this Dominic hasn't betrayed me yet. This Dominic still believes he loves me. I slide back under the covers, and he pulls me close, kissing my forehead. "You okay? You look like you've seen a ghost." "Bad dream," I manage to say, my voice steadier than I feel. His phone buzzes with a message. "The Milan project is already causing headaches." He groans. "Victor says the local contractor is making unreasonable demands." Victor. The man Lilith would later accuse me of having an affair with. A chill runs through me. "I'm sure Victor can handle it," I say carefully. He's very capable. True, which reminds me, Lilith mentioned she needs to speak with us about the East Garden renovation. She's got some quotes from landscapers. At the mention of her name, I stiffen involuntarily. Dominic doesn't notice, already scrolling through more messages. I should get up, he says. Early meeting. I watch him shower and dress with a strange detachment. This man who moves with such easy confidence through our bedroom, who kisses me goodbye with genuine affection, will one day look at me with disgust. Will believe the worst of me without hesitation. Will discard me without remorse. After he leaves, I sit on the edge of our bed, considering my options. I could confront Lilith immediately, expose her intentions before she can act. I could tell Dominic what I know will happen. Try to make him see the truth before the lies. Begin. But would he believe me? How could I explain my knowledge? And even if I somehow prevented Lilith's specific plot, would that really solve the underlying problem? Dominic had chosen to believe her over me. He had shown me exactly how shallow his trust and love truly were. No, fighting to keep him would be fighting for a man who never truly valued me. I wander through our home, my home, taking in details I'd forgotten during my time in exile. The way morning light hits the kitchen island, the slight creak in the third stair, the scent of the honeysuckle outside the sunroom. In Dominic's study, I pause. This is where I'll one day overhear them, where my world will shatter. I approach his desk, running my fingers over the polished wood. The top drawer is locked, but I know where he keeps the key. Inside, I find financial documents for the Reshowed Group, Dominic's family business. I'd never paid much attention to the company details before, trusting that Dominic had everything under control. That was the dutiful wife I'd been, supportive, but uninvolved, content to manage our home and social calendar while he handled the business. Now, with fresh eyes and painful hindsight, I begin to read. What I discover over the next few days is shocking. The Reshow Group is built on a foundation of fraud, inflated valuations, hidden losses, tax evasion schemes spanning decades. Dominic's father and uncle have constructed an elaborate house of cards, with Dominic now continuing the family tradition. No wonder they were so eager to discard me when scandal threatened. They couldn't risk close scrutiny of any kind. I make copies of key documents, storing them in a secure cloud account. Knowledge is power, and this knowledge could bring down the entire Reshowed empire. My next discovery is personal. My own inheritance from my grandmother, supposedly invested in family funds, has been diverted to cover Reshowed Group losses. Dominic has been using my money to patch holes in his family's fraudulent enterprise. I spend a week quietly investigating, using the excuse of planning a charity function to explain my distraction. When I have enough information, I consult an attorney, not the family's lawyer, but one recommended by a distant acquaintance, a man named Elio Winters. Elio is sharp, perceptive, and discreet. Under the guise of updating my will, I have him help me secure what remains of my inheritance, moving it to offshore accounts beyond the Reshow's reach. I update beneficiaries on my life insurance, removing Dominic's name. I establish a trust in my mother's name, my mother who, in this timeline, is still alive but will soon fall ill. Is everything all right, Mrs. Reshow? Elio asks after our, third meeting. His dark eyes are concerned, professional yet kind. Just being prudent, I reply with a smile. And please call me Arya. As I expected, Lilith notices my activities. I catch her watching me with a mixture of suspicion and calculation when she thinks I'm not looking. She's been biding her time, laying groundwork, waiting for the perfect opportunity to steal my life. This time, I'll give it to her. Lilith, I say one afternoon as we review plans for a dinner party. You've been such a support to us. I don't know what Dominic and I would do without you. She smiles, the picture of modest dedication. I'm just grateful for the opportunity. You both have been so kind to me since my divorce. Friends support each other, I say, squeezing her hand. Actually, I've been meaning to ask you something important. Her eyes sharpen with interest. Anything. My mother's health is declining. The doctors think it might be serious this time. This much is true. My mother will be diagnosed with aggressive cancer in a few weeks. I may need to spend significant time with her soon. While I'm gone, I'd need someone to look after things. Here, especially Dominic. He forgets to eat when he's working, struggles to keep his schedule straight. Would you be willing to take on more responsibilities? The hunger in her eyes is unmistakable, though she quickly masks it with concern. Of course, Arya. Your mother needs you, and I'll make sure everything runs smoothly here. You can depend on me. I know I can, I say, meaning every word, though not in the way she thinks. That night, as Dominic works late in his study, I begin documenting everything I've discovered about the Reshowed Group's financial irregularities. I create a detailed timeline, gather copies of incriminating documents, and write a comprehensive analysis that even a financial layperson could understand. I save this file encrypted, waiting for the right moment to use it. The following week, Dominic mentions that Victor Keller will be in town for meetings. We should have him for dinner, I suggest casually. It's been ages since we've had a proper catch-up, and he's been doing such important work on the Milan project. Dominic agrees without suspicion. I observe Lilith's reaction when she hears about the dinner plans. A flicker of calculation crosses her face before she offers to help with the arrangements. She's already selecting her pawn in the game she plans to play. This time, I'll stay. 2 moves ahead. The dinner with Victor proves illuminating. I watch Lilith closely throughout the evening, noting how she positions herself to be included in conversations between Victor and Dominic. She's gathering information, building context, for the fabricated affair she'll eventually construct. When Victor compliments my hosting, Lilith interjects with a laugh. Arya makes it all look so effortless, but you should see the work involved. I sometimes find her still awake at midnight, perfecting every detail. Guilty as charged, I smile, playing along while understanding her strategy. She's establishing a pattern of my supposed late nights, creating space for suspicious absences later. After Victor leaves, I linger in the sitting room with Lilith, intentionally delaying my usual routine of joining Dominic in our bedroom. You seemed quite taken with Victor, I observe, keeping my tone light and conspiratorial. Lilith blushes slightly. He's charming, I suppose, though not as impressive as Dominic. Few men are, I agree, though sometimes I wonder if I truly know my husband. Her attention sharpens. What do you mean? I sigh, feigning hesitation. It's probably nothing. Just lately, Dominic has been so demanding, so controlling about the smallest things. Yesterday, he actually criticized the way I arranged his closet, as if it matters whether his suits are organized by color or season. He can be particular, Lilith says carefully. Particular is one word for it. Sometimes I feel more like his employee than his wife. I lean closer, lowering my voice. Between us, his family is just as bad. His mother called last week to remind me which china to use for the foundation dinner, as if I haven't been hosting these events for years. Lilith's expression is sympathetic, but I catch the calculating gleam in her eyes. She's filing away. My complaints? Constructing a narrative of marital dissatisfaction she can exploit. Over the next few weeks, I continue this strategy, confiding small but strategic concerns about my marriage. I describe Dominic's jealous reaction when a waiter flirted with me. I mention his family's suffocating expectations. I hint at financial pressures that keep me dependent on Dominic's approval. None of these complaints are entirely fabricated. Dominic does have a jealous streak. His family is controlling. I am financially vulnerable, as my investigation into the Reshow Group has confirmed. I'm simply highlighting truths that Lilith can later use to rationalize my supposed infidelity, while simultaneously making Dominic seem less appealing as a prize. Meanwhile, I cultivate my relationship with Elio Winters, the attorney helping me secure my assets. Our meetings, ostensibly about my mother's estate planning, become a welcome respite from the calculated performance of my home life. Elio is thoughtful and direct, never presuming to tell me what I should do, but asking careful questions that help clarify my thinking. I find myself sharing more than I intended about Dominic's controlling tendencies and the Reshowed family's expectations. Forgive me for overstepping, Elio says during one of our meetings, but you seem troubled by more than just estate matters. I could deflect, maintain the professional boundary between us. Instead, I take a risk. My marriage isn't what I once thought it was. Understanding fills his eyes, but he doesn't press for details. My door is always open, Mrs. Richaud, whether for legal counsel or simply a sympathetic ear. Aria, I remind him, and thank you. That means more than you know. As predicted, my mother's health deteriorates. The diagnosis is grim. Advanced pancreatic cancer, just as before. This time, however, I'm prepared. I've arranged for the best specialists, comfortable accommodations near the hospital, and a schedule that allows me to spend time with her while still managing my plan. When I tell Dominic I need to be with my mother, he's appropriately sympathetic, but clearly preoccupied with the Milan project, which is facing new complications. Take all the time you need, he says, kissing my forehead. Lilith can handle things here. I've already asked her to keep an eye on you, I reply. Make sure you don't forget to eat when you're working late. Always taking care of me, he murmurs, already turning back to his laptop. Before leaving, I have one last conversation with Lilith, carefully staged in the garden where we can speak privately. I feel terrible leaving Dominic during such a stressful time, I tell her. The Milan project has him working all hours, and you know how he gets when he's under pressure. Don't worry, Lilith assures me. I'll make sure everything runs smoothly. There's something else, I say, lowering my voice. Dominic's been so distant lately, so critical of everything I do. I sometimes wonder if he still loves me or if I'm just a convenient accessory to his life. I blink back strategic tears. Sorry, I shouldn't burden you with this. Lilith squeezes my hand, the perfect picture of friendly concern. It's not a burden. That's what friends are for. You're right. I don't know what I'd do without you, Lilith. You understand the pressures of this life, of being married to a Richaud. Sometimes I think you understand Dominic better than I do. Her eyes widen slightly at this opening, this tacit permission. I just want you both to be happy. I know. You do. I smile through my fabricated distress. Take care of him while I'm gone. And if anything happens with the Milan project with Victor, let me know immediately. Dominic tends to keep problems to himself until they explode. With these carefully planted seeds, I leave for my mother's bedside. Unlike last time, I maintain daily contact with both Dominic and Lilith, keeping myself present in their thoughts, while physically absent. I call at unpredictable times, sometimes catching them together, noting the increasing familiarity in their interactions. When Lilith mentions that Dominic missed dinner because he was working late with Victor on contract revisions, I express just enough concern to plant another seed. Victor can be very persuasive, I say. Make sure Dominic doesn't agree to anything unusual. What do you mean? Lilith asks, curiosity piqued. Just that Victor sometimes pushes ethical boundaries in negotiations. It's caused problems before. A strategic lie, giving her material to work with. Anyway, I should go. Mother's having a difficult night. 2 weeks into my absence, Dominic's calls become less frequent, briefer. Lilith, however, calls daily, with detailed updates about the house, Dominic's schedule, social obligations she's managing in my stead. She's positioning herself as indispensable, exactly as planned. During this time, I continue meeting with Elio whenever I can slip away from the hospital. He's connected me with his brother, Alessandro Winters, a federal prosecutor specializing in financial crimes. Without revealing my identity, Elio has consulted Alessandro about hypothetical situations matching the Richaud group's activities. My brother says there's enough to warrant a full investigation, Elio tells me, if this information were to reach his office formally. I nod, understanding the implication. It will, when the time is right. At my mother's hospital, things proceed differently than in my first life. With better care and my constant presence, she responds well to treatment. The doctors are cautiously optimistic about extending her time, if not achieving remission. You seem different, my mother observes one evening as I sit by her bed. More certain of yourself. I take her fragile hand in mine. I've realized some important truths recently. About Dominic? Her perception has always been keen. About many things, I answer honestly. About what I deserve and what I'm willing to accept. She squeezes my hand weakly. Good. I've worried you lost yourself in that marriage. After exactly 12 days, the same duration as my absence in my previous life, I received the call I've been expecting from Lilith. Arya, I hate to bother you, but something's happened. I found something while organizing the study as you asked me to. Her voice is perfectly calibrated, reluctant yet determined, the loyal friend forced to deliver painful news. What is it, Lilith? I ask, already knowing the answer. I think you should come home, she says. It's about Victor. And Dominic needs to see this too. I understand, I say quietly. I'll be there tomorrow. I hang up and look at my mother, sleeping peacefully after her treatment. This time I've arranged for her care regardless of my presence. This time I've said proper goodbyes, expressed my love fully. This time I'm prepared for what comes next. I call Dominic, but he doesn't answer. I leave a message saying I'm returning home tomorrow to discuss an urgent matter Lilith has discovered. Then I call Elio. It's happening, I tell him, just as I predicted. Are you ready? Everything is in place, he confirms. Are you sure about this, Arya? Once it begins, there's no turning back. I'm sure, I say, my resolve absolute. Some fires need to burn. I return home the next afternoon, the sense of déjà vu nearly overwhelming as I approach the study where voices are already raised. This time I'm not shaking with disbelief. This time I'm calm, prepared, armored against what's to come. I push open the door without hesitation. Dominic and Lilith turn toward me, their expressions exactly as I remember. His face contorted with anger, hers a mask of sorrowful concern. Arya, Dominic says coldly. How convenient that you've returned just as Lilith discovered these. He gestures to the familiar items spread across his desk, the falsified hotel receipts, the doctored photographs of Victor and me, the forged love letters. I would have called earlier, Lilith says, her voice trembling with practiced emotion, but I wanted to be absolutely certain before causing such pain. I walk slowly to the desk and examine the evidence without touching it. I see. That's all you have to say? Dominic demands. I see. I look up at him, studying the husband I once adored, seeing clearly now the weakness beneath his commanding presence. What would you like me to say, Dominic? That these are forgeries? That I've never been unfaithful? Would you believe me if I did? My calm seems to inflame him further. The evidence is right here. Your signature on hotel receipts, photographs, letters in your handwriting. Yes, very convincing, I agree, noting Lilith's flash of confusion at my lack of denial. Almost as if someone spent months planning this, gathering samples of my handwriting, studying my schedule, learning which of your associates would make a believable accomplice. Lilith takes a step backward. Arya, I understand you're upset, but lashing out at me won't change what you've done. I turn to her with a smile that makes her flinch. I'm not upset, Lilith, and I'm not lashing out. I'm simply observing the thoroughness of your work. Dominic slams his hand on the desk. Enough. I've already spoken to Victor. He denied everything naturally, but then requested immediate reassignment overseas. Guilty conscience, no doubt. Or a man recognizing he's being drawn into something ugly, I suggest mildly. But it hardly matters now, does it? You've made up your mind. Are you denying this? He demands, gesturing again to the evidence. I consider him for a long moment. Would it make any difference if I did? His silence is answer enough. Then I won't waste my breath. I turn toward the door. I'll pack my things. Arya, wait, Lilith calls, clearly disconcerted by my failure to follow the script. We should talk about this. Maybe there's an explanation. There is, I say, pausing at the threshold. But not the one you've constructed. Dominic will realize that eventually. Whether it matters to him by then remains to be seen. I leave them standing in the study, Dominic fuming, Lilith uncertain. As I pack a single suitcase with essentials, clothing, jewelry, important documents, I feel a strange sense of liberation. The life I thought I wanted is ending, but this time on my terms. The divorce proceeds swiftly, just as before. The Richaud family machine activates, pressuring me to sign papers renouncing any claim to family assets. I sign without argument, already having secured what truly matters. When I attend the charity gala where Dominic previously humiliated me, I arrive early and composed. The attorney with the papers waits in the same corner, clearly expecting a scene. "Mrs. Richaud," he says, extending the folder, "everything is in order." "I'm sure it is," I reply, signing efficiently where indicated. He looks somewhat disappointed by my composure. "That concludes our business, then." "Not quite," I say, extracting an envelope from my purse. "This is my formal statement regarding the true nature of my separation from Dominic. I'd like it included in the official record." "That's highly unusual," he protests. Nevertheless, I insist. I slide the envelope across the table. Should questions arise later, I want my position documented. As expected, Dominic and Lilith make their entrance shortly after, clearly planning to confront me. When they spot me signing the papers calmly, they pause, thrown off balance. I approach them before they can regroup, aware of watching eyes throughout the ballroom. "Congratulations," I say pleasantly. "You've gotten what you wanted. The papers are signed." Dominic's eyes narrow. "Arya, don't make a scene." "A scene?" I laugh softly. "I'm simply offering my best wishes to the happy couple." Lilith shifts uncomfortably. "Arya, I never wanted things to end this way." "Of course you did," I counter with a smile. "This was always the plan, from the moment I invited you into our home. I just want you to know that I understand now what you truly deserve." "And what's that?" she asks, unable to help herself. I lean closer. "Each other." Before they can respond, I step back and address Dominic. "You truly deserve her, Dominic, and she truly deserves you. I can't think of a more fitting match." I walk away without waiting for their reaction, head high, as I exit the gala. Outside, Elio waits in his car as arranged. "How did it go?" he asks as I slide into the passenger seat. "Precisely as expected," I answer. "They're confused by my lack of resistance, which makes them suspicious, which will ultimately make them careless." Elio drives me to my new apartment. Modest but comfortable, paid for with funds from my secured inheritance. Unlike my previous life, I'm not destitute or dependent on the Richaud's grudging charity. 3 weeks later, Dominic and Lilith marry at the Richaud country estate. I receive notification through a society column rather than an invitation. The photos show them beaming. Lilith in a designer gown, Dominic looking triumphant. I clip the announcement and pin it to my bulletin board, a reminder of what comes next. 6 months pass. I divide my time between caring for my mother, whose treatment is more successful than in my previous life, and building my new identity. I enroll in finance courses, volunteer at an art therapy program at the local hospital, and meet regularly with Elio, whose professional guidance has blossomed into something deeper. I avoid most social events connected to my former life, but make strategic appearances at certain functions where I know information circulates. At each, I am polite, but distant when inevitably asked about Dominic and Lilith. "They deserve each other," I say with a mysterious smile that leaves gossips wondering. Meanwhile, the evidence I gathered about the Richaud Group's financial irregularities makes its way anonymously to federal investigators. The first public hint of trouble comes when trading in Richaud Group stock is temporarily suspended pending an inquiry. I watch from a careful distance as Dominic begins appearing stressed in public as the Richaud family cancels their annual summer gala for the first time in decades, as whispers of financial trouble replace gossip about my supposed infidelity. Lilith continues playing the devoted wife publicly, but sources tell me she's increasingly alarmed by the lifestyle adjustments being forced upon her. The shopping sprees have ended. The renovation of the East Wing has been postponed indefinitely. Household staff has been reduced. The hammer falls 8 months after their wedding. Federal agents arrest Dominic's father and uncle on charges of securities fraud, tax evasion, and money laundering. Dominic himself is named as a person of interest in the ongoing investigation. The Richaud Group's stock plummets. Assets are frozen. The family's carefully constructed facade of wealth And respectability crumbles overnight. I watch the news coverage from my apartment, sipping tea as the empire that once rejected me collapses under the weight of its own corruption. That evening, I receive a call from an unknown number. I answer to hear Lilith's voice, tight with panic. Arya, I know I'm the last person you want to speak with, but I need your help. My help? I repeat, savoring the irony. With what exactly? It's all falling apart, she says, her composure finally cracking. The investigations, the freezing of accounts. They've even taken my car, and Dominic, he's changed. He's not the man I thought I was marrying. How surprising, I murmur. The charming, generous man you stole turned out to have hidden depths. Please, Arya, you managed him for years. You must know how to handle him when he gets like this. Like what, Lilith? Her voice drops to a whisper. Angry, drinking too much, breaking things. I close my eyes, remembering glimpses of this side of Dominic that I'd smoothed over, excused, managed, the side I'd protected him from revealing to the world. I'm afraid that was part of my job as his wife, I say evenly, a position you were so eager to fill. Arya, I'm begging you, just tell me what to do, how to calm him down when he gets like this. You wanted my life, Lilith, all of it, now you have it. I hang up, place my phone on the coffee table, and look out at the city lights. The first letter has arrived. There will be more. I place Lilith's latest letter in the lacquered box on my vanity, smoothing it flat beside the others that have arrived over the past 3 months. Each message more desperate than the last, each page a testament to the unraveling of the life she stole. Morning sunlight streams through the windows of my villa overlooking the Mediterranean. The scent of jasmine drifts in from the terrace where Elio is reading the newspaper, coffee steaming beside him. This peaceful scene is worlds away from the life I once thought I needed. Today marks 1 year since my rebirth, 1 year since I opened my eyes to find myself back in time with the knowledge to reshape my destiny. The woman I was then hardly resembles the woman I am now. I join Elio on the terrace, my silk robe billowing in the gentle sea breeze. He looks up with a smile that still makes my heart quicken, even after 6 months of marriage. Another letter? He asks, noticing my expression. The 5th this month, I confirm, pouring myself coffee from the silver carafe. She's becoming more frantic. Elio places his newspaper aside. What does she want this time? Money, I say. The reshowed assets are still frozen while the investigation continues. They've been forced to move out of the estate into a small apartment in the city. Apparently, Dominic's drinking has worsened, and he's become increasingly volatile. Are you concerned for her safety? I consider this question carefully. Despite everything, I take no pleasure in the thought of Lilith suffering physical harm. If I truly believed he would hurt her, I'd intervene. But Dominic's rage has always been primarily destructive to objects, not people. His preferred tools of violence are words, not fists. Elio nods, understanding the distinction. And how does it feel, reading her pleas? This is why I love him. His questions always cut to the heart of matters, helping me understand my own complex emotions. Less satisfying than I expected, I admit. The justice feels right, but the vindication feels hollow. My phone buzzes with an incoming call from a familiar number. Alessandro Winters, Elio's brother and the federal prosecutor handling the reshow case. Alessandro, I answer. Good morning. Good morning, Arya. I thought you'd want to know immediately. Dominic Richaud has agreed to testify against his father and uncle in exchange for reduced charges. The sentencing hearing is scheduled for next week. A strange calm settles over me. I see. Will my presence be required? Not officially, but given your role in providing key evidence, you might want to be there. It represents the culmination of our case. I'll consider it, I say, meeting Elio's questioning gaze. Across the table. Thank you for letting me know. After hanging up, I explain the situation to Elio. Dominic is turning on his family to save himself. The sentencing hearing is next week. Will you go? I trace the rim of my coffee cup, weighing the question. I think I should. Not for vindication, but for closure. 1 week later, I sit in the back row of the federal courthouse, watching as the once mighty Richaud patriarchs receive their sentences. 20 years for financial crimes that destroyed countless lives beyond my own. Dominic, looking gaunt and haunted, receives a suspended sentence in exchange for his cooperation. As he turns to leave the courtroom, his eyes meet mine. Recognition flashes across his face, followed by confusion, then a dawning realization. I hold his gaze steadily, offering nothing. No anger, no triumph, no forgiveness. After a moment, he looks away first, shoulders slumping as he follows his attorney from the room. Outside the courthouse, a familiar figure waits nervously by a taxi. Lilith, dressed in clothes far simpler than she would have chosen in her former life, anxiously scanning the exit. When she spots me, she freezes, then hurries in my direction. "Aria," she says, her voice simultaneously desperate and accusatory. "You were there. You saw it all happen." "I did." "You knew," she continues, her eyes widening. "Somehow you knew this would happen. That day in your garden when you told me, I understood the pressures of being married to a Richaud better than you. You were setting me up. I merely allowed you to pursue what you wanted, Lilith. You set yourself up." She glances back at the courthouse doors, where Dominic has emerged with his lawyer. He's not the man I thought he was. No, I agree. He's exactly the man I knew he was, the man I protected from himself and the world from him, the man whose charm and wealth blinded you to everything else. "Help me," she pleads, grabbing my arm. "You got away. You rebuilt your life. Tell me how." I gently remove her hand. "I didn't get away, Lilith. I was discarded. There's a difference. And I rebuilt my life by recognizing my own worth rather than basing it on someone else's name or fortune." "I have nothing now," she says, tears streaking her makeup. "The society friends are gone. The money is gone. And what remains of Dominic is cruel and bitter." "You have exactly what you fought for," I remind her. "My life, as it would have been had I stayed." Dominic approaches, his face hardening when he sees me. "What is she doing here?" he demands of Lilith. "Observing justice," I reply calmly. "It's been illuminating." His expression darkens. "You did this. Somehow you orchestrated all of it." I shake my head. "No, Dominic. I simply stopped protecting you from the consequences of your family's actions. Actions you were happy to benefit from while keeping your hands seemingly clean." "You were my wife," he hisses. "You were supposed to stand by me. I was, until you believed her lies and threw me away." I use the words from our old life deliberately, watching recognition flicker in his eyes, though he can't possibly understand why these specific words resonate. "I made a mistake," he says, lowering his voice. "I see that now." "Yes, you did, but not the one you think." I turn to leave, then pause. "By the way, I never congratulated you properly on your wedding. You truly deserve each other." I walk away, feeling their eyes on my back. Neither calls out to stop me. They've played their roles in my story, but they no longer have the power to affect its outcome. Back at my hotel, I call Elio. "It's done," I tell him. "The sentencing went as expected. And how do you feel?" "Ready to come home," I say truthfully. "Ready to focus on our future rather than my past." 2 days later, I return to our Mediterranean villa. Elio meets me at the airport, his embrace washing away the lingering heaviness of the courtroom. On the drive home, he shares news of the community art program I've been developing for children affected by domestic violence. The first session was oversubscribed, he tells me. The local school wants to make it a permanent program. Pride warms me. This work, healing, creating, building, feels more meaningful than all the society functions I once managed. At home, I unpack my suitcase and notice a small envelope that wasn't there before. Inside is a single key and a note in Elio's handwriting. "For new treasures." I find him in the garden. "What's this about?" I ask, holding up the key. He takes my hand, leading me to a small structure at the garden's edge that had been under renovation before I left. Inside is a sun-filled studio, easels and canvases arranged beside large windows overlooking the sea. Your gallery opening was so successful, he says. I thought you might want space to create your own art, not just curate others. Tears fill my eyes as I take in this gift, not just the studio itself, but the understanding behind it. Elio has seen the artist in me that I'm only beginning to discover. That evening, as the setting sun paints the sea in golds and crimsons, I retrieve the lacquered box containing Lilith's letters. I consider them one last time. These artifacts of a vengeance that ultimately taught me more about myself than about justice. I carry the box to the garden and place it in the small fire pit where we sometimes roast chestnuts in winter. The letters catch quickly, curling into ash that drifts upward on the evening breeze. Elio joins me, slipping an arm around my waist. Are you sure? He asks. Those were your trophies. I don't need trophies anymore, I reply, watching the last letter blacken and disintegrate. I don't need reminders of who they are or what they did. I know who I am now. The fire burns down to embers as twilight deepens around us. In the distance, lights from fishing boats twinkle on the darkening sea. Tomorrow, I'll start a new canvas in my studio. Tomorrow, I'll continue building the life I've chosen rather than the one I once thought I needed. Dominic believed her lies and threw me away, and in doing so, he set me free.